Greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on BlazeTV radio and podcast with Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. I'm Steve Deace. We are brought to you here by Birch Gold. You know, in these crazy times, there is peace of mind in security for our country, security for our leaders, security for our families. But think about this. You are not financially secure if all your eggs are in one basket. Gold and silver are an excellent way to diversify your savings and a hedge against inflation, government debasement schemes, managed declines, you know, like what we're suffering through right now. They're a physical asset that is in high demand globally, from the wealthy to the banks. And through my friends at Birch Gold Group, you can own physical gold and silver, and in a tax-sheltered retirement account. That's right. You can diversify an old IRA or 401k for no money out of pocket into an IRA in gold and silver. This is one thing you can do to secure your family savings. Just text Steve to 989898 and receive a free, no-obligation info kit on gold and learn the role precious metals can play in your overall savings strategy. Again, text Steve to 989898. Text Steve to 989898 with an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Thousands of happy customers. You can trust Birch Gold like I do. Just text Steve to 989898. And also don't forget episode 2 of The Cover-Up. I just got an email from a gal who said she watched the episode and just could not believe how good it was. She was blown away. It was terrific. She was already pretty informed on the topic. You can watch episode 2 of The Cover-Up. It's Matt Kibbe's outstanding miniseries that he's doing here at The Blaze. It's some of the best work I think we've done as a network, frankly. The new episode with Rand Paul, I think, is maybe even better than the first episode with Jay Bhattacharya, because the senator from Kentucky brings the receipts and laying at least some of the blame of the origin of the scamdemic at Anthony Fauci and his department itself. Watch it for yourself at FauciCoverup.com/Deace. FauciCoverup.com/Deace. And if you use the code FauciLied, you'll get $30 off your annual subscription at FauciCoverup.com/Deace. All right, coming up today on the show, the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation, Daniel Horowitz, will be here. He's got a new column out today at The Blaze that I think is very insightful and important, and we're going to discuss that. And really, Daniel's point, and we'll let him expand on it further when he joins us later, is we have it backwards, and we typically do. We have a tendency to react too late to things on our side, but the invasion of men into women's sports is not the tip of the spear here. It is the final confirmation that the destruction of gender roles and femininity is nearly complete here. We have it backwards. All right, we've made our way to this point. We didn't start here. We made our way here. And I think it's important to understand how we made our way here so we can get our way back out of it. We'll talk about that and more with Daniel coming up later on in today's show. Then you guys, before that, will take over here at the bottom of this hour for an hour with Buy, Sell, or Hold. We will see what tasty morsels you guys have in store for Todd and I to intellectually chew upon and respond to. That's coming up at the bottom of the hour. But before we get there, let's begin. Aaron gets the first word here with his rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by Cooking the Search Results. According to reporting at Axios, the Kamala campaign is creating ads on Google searches, which edit news stories about her to make her appear more favorable. The practice has been used, according to Google, by other campaigns. The question is, why does her campaign feel the need to do this when news coverage is already overwhelmingly positive in her favor? A group called Evangelicals for Harris has released a new ad. Here it is.
Have you been to the cross and said, Lord, I have sinned. I'm sorry for my sin. I'm willing to change my way of life.
Have you ever asked God for forgiveness? That's a tough question. I'm not sure I have. I don't bring God into that picture. I don't.
For those of you listening, text appears on the screen that reads, "Is there any greater denial of Christ than to say, I don't need his forgiveness?" TikTok degenerate influencer Jeffrey Marsh has reportedly been offered an invitation to speak at the Democrat National Convention. Marsh is this guy, in case you forgot.
I love, here are 3 ways to disrespect your elders. So if you're dealing with a narcissistic parent or a bullying boss at work, you need to 1, play innocent. There's some sort of secret code or language they're using to try to get you to do what they want. Number 3, limit contact. Don't do extra. Don't go above and beyond. Don't show up constantly, consistently, and all the time sacrificing your life for their agenda.
According to Real Clear Politics, the Trump-Musk X space the other night only raised about $1 million for the Republican nominee. Here's a petty jealousy update. Around 20 Oklahoma State House Republicans have signed on to a letter asking for an impeachment investigation against State Superintendent of Public Instruction Ryan Walters. Republicans are doing this. Minnesota's Ilhan Omar won her Democrat primary last night, breaking a losing streak of squad members in primaries. Again, this was a Democrat primary in Minnesota's 5th congressional district. Here's what Omar had to say about her main Democrat opponent after her victory.
This campaign has been one of the ugliest, most disgusting campaign against me that I've ever witnessed. We had an opponent that was willing to align with literal Nazis in order to defeat us.
Agents with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement have located and arrested a Haitian illegal who had previously been released on a $500 bond despite facing charges of raping a child in Massachusetts. ICE had issued a detainer on the suspect, Corey Alvarez, but the local sheriff's office ignored it and released the 26-year-old on low bail numbers. Down the rabbit hole of madness we continue. A man named Valentino Petrillo from Italy is set to compete in the women's sprinting division of the Paralympic Games. Petrillo says he's blind. That dude who boxed in the women's division at the big Olympics, Iman Khalif, is suing and naming ex-owner Elon Musk and author J.K. Rowling over cyber harassment. The suit was filed in France last week. And finally, wise words from comedian Jim Brewer.
So, Bobby, you're 12? You doing this in the mirror a lot? A little bit. Things are gonna start sprouting. You're gonna feel real good soon. Now remember this, is they teach you something different in school nowadays. You're a boy, and you should feel proud that you're a boy. Whether you believe in God or not, but he was like, I'm gonna give him a little, a little. You got a little donkey down there. You may not understand that donkey for a while, but one day you will realize the creation of man and a woman, and together they create more. As in nature. Be careful if anyone tries to convince you to take that thing off, okay? Don't trust that human being. Those are bad people.
And that's what happened while we were away.
That's more Bible than will be heard in many American evangelical churches this Sunday right there. Aaron's montage brought to you by our friends over at Relief Factor. You know, remember back in the day when you were more agile, mobile, and hostile, and now you're very docile. And you're thinking, there's nothing I can do? I mean, that might be true. We do die, these natural bodies in a fallen world. We don't have our glorified bodies yet, so they don't last forever. They do break down, particularly as we get older. But it's also very possible that you're giving up the ghost here a little bit too early, because it might be chronic pain that is your problem, and that's from too much inflammation in the joints, and that's what Relief Factor was created to take care of. Now, it's a drug-free supplement created by physicians who can prescribe drugs, and the goal is to go after the inflammation likely causing the chronic pain, that is that lingering stiffness, soreness, and achiness that is your daily annoyance. Now, no guarantees here, but over the years, over 1 million people have tried Relief Factor. 70% of them have seen such great results. They have stuck with the product product long term. So why not see if you don't see a difference in 3 weeks or less? That's all they did. They took the 3-week quick start challenge for $20. 70% of them said, I'm sticking around because of the results I've gotten already. What do you got to lose for $20? Find out today at relieffactor.com. Again, head over to relieffactor.com. A couple of quick notes from Aaron's montage I want to address, and then I want to get into the Evangelicals for Harris ad a little bit more in depth. All right. That video from Dylan Marsh, and pretty much every video that I've ever seen from this
Jeffrey
dude.
Marsh.
Jeffrey Marsh, I'm sorry.
Who cares?
I mean, I conflated Dylan Mulvaney with Jeffrey Marsh.
I saw what you did there.
Yeah, I didn't do it on purpose, but
well, they're the same people.
Unintentionally
They're the
prophetic.
same. Yes.
Yes. They are. So are we saying they are legion,
Yeah.
Aaron? Yes, we are. Because that's where I was going to go here. From the same source, that is demonic. That is flat out demonic. Flat out. Flat out demonic. I want to talk about Ryan Walters for just a second. Because when I saw, and by the way, there's 80 Republicans. There's a 100-seat legislature in Oklahoma. There's 80 Republicans. So this is barely 20% of them are literally outing themselves saying, hey, we're simps and Quislings for the demonic teachers unions here in Oklahoma. I mean, I texted Ryan yesterday morning. Well, normally, if Media Matters is listening, he texts me for his daily orders. Not true. Just trolling. Who's anybody working there anymore? Has everybody been laid off? Is Gretchen still there? What was her name?
Mildred.
Mildred? I mean, is she still there? Did she survive? Did she make the cut? No? We don't know. Anyway. But I texted him yesterday morning. I said, this is gold, Jerry. They're going to turn you in to the next Ken Paxton level folk hero nationally. Because they are outing themselves. They're so desperate now to get rid of you that they're doing things Republicans don't typically do in red states so that they can actually keep winning primaries. They're going to out themselves. In case you were wondering who the rhinos are, it's us. We're the ones undercutting you in here all the time. Because they don't go out there in a state like Oklahoma, guys. They don't go out there and run on in the primary. I'm the rhino. They don't run on that. You guys have you ever seen an ad? Aaron, you ever played an ad in the history of this montage where someone just outed themselves, a Republican incumbent, as a rhino?
I just did on the montage. That's the first time.
Yes, it's never occurred, and until this thing, with this, we're the rhinos. We are. We're the ones. We're the ones that Ryan Walters and Steve Deace and their ilk have been warning you about. It's us. All right, and just when we were about now to get, that's just political gold. In politics, you are often way more blessed by your enemies than your friends. All right. To have them come out in a state like that and just out themselves and say, we think you've been too hard on the demonic teachers unions that everybody hates. At least everybody in Oklahoma. Would have just been a treasure trove. Now, why am I speaking past tense? Because the Republican House Speaker in Oklahoma yesterday put the whole kibosh on this thing right before close of business. Much to my chagrin and disappointment, because that would have elevated this. See, normally the Republicans run an incumbent protection racket, so that unless you get access to a show like this, like Fox is never telling you who the rhinos are either. They're in on the rhino incumbent protection racket. So unless you get access to a show like this on a platform like this, you have no idea who the rhinos are unless you have an inordinate amount of spare time on your own, which most people don't have, to research all this stuff, right? Which is why you rely on outlets like Fox News and us to kind of, the amount of time you have during the day to keep you informed. All right. But there's not a lot of people doing that because the Republican Party doesn't want you to know who the rhinos are so they can keep the rhinos there. This is especially true in states like Oklahoma, where Democrats are an endangered species. And this is how they stop this is how they stop red states from becoming as red as California, Illinois, and now Minnesota are blue. This is how they do that. It's a moving target. You're nailing Jello to the wall. The rhinos are there, but you can't ever, who is the person? The name rarely gets, tied to that. They come in with all this Chamber of Commerce money. They run all these like John Birch Society level ads. Okay. I'm to the right of right. Okay, and that's all you see, and they've got the name ID, and then you're used to voting for this person, and no one likes admitting they were wrong for 30 years and voting for Lindsey Graham for the Senate, right? No one wants to admit they suck giving more than Lindsey does, so they just keep voting for him, right? And that feedback loop just infests, and all these red states we have an infestation of rhinos in all these places, and that's why the only states that are every bit as red as blue states are blue are states like Iowa and Florida that are not traditional red states. You see what I'm saying? That they've been more up for grabs. It's a little bit like Augustine comes out of a sex cult and becomes like this fierce apologist. Josh McDowell comes out of an abusive alcoholic father as an atheist, and he's now this fierce apologist. A lot of times it's when you come from dark to light that you tend to be the fiercest about defending the light, right? So Florida, you were just voting for Obama just a few years ago, twice. Iowa was just voting for Democrats in almost every presidential election for 40 years until just a few years ago. So it's still fresh in our brains, like it's fresh in Eastern European countries, what, totalitarianism looks like, which is why they're way to the right of the other secularized, enlightened, of course, Western European countries that have forgotten and then imported all of it, right? Same thing, okay? Same thing. And so if you're like a recent convert to being a red state, you're like really red. You're like Iowa, you're like Florida, you're like, oh, hell no, we're not falling for that canard again, not falling for that banana tailpipe again. Let's just start rounding them up and having policies that force these people to move out of the state, right?
Yeah.
The greatest compliment Ron DeSantis has ever received is when a columnist at the Miami Herald wrote, Ron DeSantis appears to be doing policies to get people like me to leave. Yes! Yes! That's exactly what we want. Yes. Go. Yes. But in these states that are traditionally red, it often has really no meaning other than just an R and a D. And it's because the element here going after Ryan Walters is so deeply embedded, but often not exposed. And they were really just about to expose themselves at a meta level. Unfortunately, the Republican House Speaker came in and said, yeah, we're not doing that. Dang it.
Do you have any idea the male versus female breakdown of those who wanted to impeach him? I haven't seen.
I did not look. No, I didn't look at the actual names, but that would be fascinating to see. Yeah. And I'm guessing it's almost all males. I'm going to guess that too.
In a place like Oklahoma, that's my guess.
Yeah, I'm going to guess it's almost all guys.
I don't think we can automatically default.
Most of the women getting in Oklahoma, I'm guessing, are going to be like Moms for Liberty level mama bears who are like, screw this, we can't sit on the couch anymore, okay? It's my guess, it's guys that have been taking corporatist and union money for decades and years, okay, and are just, nicer than God. That would be my guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I describe this as petty jealousy. Isn't that playing into this a little bit too?
Of course it is.
This guy gets the Fox News hits. He's slaying. He's doing what we should have been doing all this time. He's making us look bad.
Yes. That's a part of it too. You're right. All right, I want to get to that Evangelicals for Harris ad. Because, disclaimer, if you can't handle anything other than the home team's going to win every game, and if we don't win, we was robbed, the next 12 minutes of this segment will not be for you. I just need to warn you of that. Now, I have no idea what element of that even exists in this audience after all these years, but, we're all, and me included, we're all at this point emotionally invested in this race at some level, and we're in the middle of the game, and emotions can run hot. All right, so I'm just warning you, because my goal here is I don't want what I'm about to warn about to happen. I don't want this to happen. And I'm going to keep bringing this up until the campaign does something to comfort me that this will not occur, because I am very concerned about that ad. So you've been warned. Now, my analysis. I am very concerned. Steve, Evangelicals for Harris, she's hardly going to get any. It's not about that. All right? Don't be a Fox News basement-dwelling consumer of content. Just soaking up chyrons, lower thirds, and headlines and thinking that now you know everything. You don't. Those are all force-fed you. Do the work. Do the math. Think more critically. They know they're not going to get almost any white evangelical votes. They know this. That's not why they're doing it. They're doing it because they're trying to limit how many white evangelical votes Donald Trump gets. It's a puzzle, folks. And there are certain ratios that have to work. So a couple of weeks ago, I walked you through the Republicans do not have a minority voter problem. They have a white voter problem. We walked through all that data, right? Demonstrated that for literally decades worth of exit polls and data available. It's actually a white voter problem. Even if Donald Trump were to get 25% of the black male vote, I don't believe that will happen. But even if he did, that would represent about 6.5% of the electorate. YouGov has a poll out today that has Democrats at plus 10. What they're saying is that would be the biggest, this year would be the biggest Democrat electorate in the history of exit polls. That's not going to happen either. The largest we've ever had, Obama's plus 8 in 2008. What they're saying is that Kamala and Walz are going to be more popular than Obama. That's not going to happen. Kamala may win, but it won't be because she has the electorate is plus 10 Democrat. That's not going to occur. Actually, Democrats, as Aaron pointed out to you on the show a couple days ago, when you look at the hard data nationwide this year in voter registrations, actually, they are actually on the decline. So again, you got to be discerning here because the enemy is cunning, crafty, like a serpent. They know all the same data that I shared with you on Monday. Here's the bottom line. If Donald Trump gets the 80% of white evangelical voters he got in 2020, he's going to win. If he gets the 76% that he got if he gets the 80% he got in 2016, he'll win. If he gets the 76% that he got in 2020, he's probably going to lose. And if white evangelical turnout falls below 25%, Trump will probably lose regardless of what percentage he gets. That's what that ad is designed to do. Let me tell you who that ad is targeting. Ali Stuckey's audience. Or the audience that Ali is trying to reach. Largely suburban women. Nominally churched, maybe even more than that. But most of the churches they go to are the Pottery Barn, megapolises in the suburbs who have catechized them that being nice, in no matter what, was the 11th commandment that God forgot to include in the original draft. Except for one issue. There's one issue where these kinds of churches allow you to actually activate. Can you guys guess what it is? It's the life issue. That's the one. That's the one issue. And these women are not MAGA. They're never going to be. They're also not communists, though. And their husbands will rarely go against them. That ad is targeted at them. Look at what the ad mentions and does not mention. The ad doesn't mention baby murder in any context at all. And it just points out Trump's unrepentance. That ad is to try and dampen Trump's base turnout. Remember, Orange Man is still bad. Orange Man is still unrepentant. And he won't defend the babies that we want to murder. Well, Steve, you can't talk about this. No, you're dumb. If that's your take, you're an idiot. And I don't care how much you're being paid on the Trump campaign or either officially or unofficially, you're a moron. Or you're just lying to people. Donald Trump is getting destroyed right now in every battleground state on abortion ads. They did not take one ad off the air because he's puckered on this issue currently. He's still the guy that overturned Roe and still the GOP nominee. So he is getting the worst of both worlds here. He is getting annihilated over the air. Believe me, I get your emails from all of you living in these battleground states, and all you're seeing everywhere are abortion ads. And it's only August. You're going to see a lot more. He's getting annihilated. Has nothing to do with him puckering on the issue. Hasn't helped him at all. Getting the same amount of annihilation whether he puckered or he didn't. So now he's puckering and getting annihilated on one end, and he is aiding and abetting them, holding his own base turnout down on the other with his current position on this. They need to fix this. If they don't fix this, I'm telling you, it's equivalent to Hillary not going to Wisconsin. You're leaving voters behind who should be voting for you. And the counter to Orange Man Bad, if they're never going to get on board, is he needs to remind them, I was the most pro-life president in American history. And that's true. Because he's getting tagged with that anyway. One way. You see what I'm saying, guys? He's getting tagged with it towards the Democrats are tagging their own turnout with that message anyway. He needs to counter that message by tagging himself affirmatively with that. And he's not. He's puckering. He's running. He's punking out. And we are risking leaving voters behind who should be voting for us off to the side. Let's see if they don't have anywhere else to go. That does not work with these voters. Guys, you are talking to someone who has spent as much time mobilizing and messaging to evangelical voters in the last 20 years than almost anyone else has. Given the work I've done on the ground here in Iowa and across the country over multiple campaigns and the size of this audience, the amount of people who on a daily basis message and mobilize to evangelicals, beyond me, there is a list, but it's small. These kinds of voters don't respond to that. They don't care if they have nowhere else to go. They're in the suburbs. Life is good, by and large. They're not desperate enough yet to say, that's the last man on the planet to make a baby with. They think bread $5 a loaf sucks, but they can more than afford it. That's not going to work for them. Ask President Mitt McCain if they have nowhere else to go message works. It doesn't work. It doesn't. They want elections to be about them and their issues, not you and your ambitions. All he's got to do is be proud of his own record. All he's got to do is say the Democrats' Amendment 4 in Florida that would with no restrictions is heinous, and 80% of Americans are opposed, and so am I. I'll vote against it in my own state. That's it. Not asking him to be wouldn't require him becoming a sudden abolitionist. No one would buy it anyway. Doesn't require him really carrying any water. Just reminding people he carried water already. Because the other side is doing all the reminding of their people, whether Trump puckers or not. Trump can go out to the 18th green and not be, and he can no longer be Tiger Woods 2004. He can be Tiger Woods 2024. Barely, not even making cuts in majors. And they're still going to run ads like it's Tiger Woods 2004 over there. So you might as well be frickin' Tiger Woods, man. Own it then. But this is something we can control. We cannot control Kamala Harris gaming out the Google search engines, which probably Google's helping her do anyway, if we're all being honest about that. Can we control anything about that? No. Can we control YouGov publishing a poll that's plus 10 Democrat and psyoping people with it? Nope. Those are the things we're going to all fixate on, the stuff we cannot control or do anything about. We need to fixate the things we can control. What we can control is there's 3 to 5 points of evangelical white women sitting in the decisive suburbs who will vote for us if we speak their language, and won't if we won't. And then if they stay home, you're going to learn a lot of languages the next 4 years. As millions more people from all foreigners that are undocumented from all over the world come over here to do God knows what. And so I'm going to keep harping on this until it gets fixed. Because this is the biggest thing broken right now that we can control. On our side, we can stop this. It doesn't have to be this way. And I'm going to keep on it until they fix it. More in a moment. By the way, several of you sent me the link again to the impeachment inquiry against our buddy Ryan Walters in Oklahoma, and I went and looked at the names, Todd. 14 of the 17 names are men. Are men. Yeah. Karen writes, I've been getting my mobile phone service from another provider for several years. Every time I call support, I get someone that I can't understand. I finally took the leap and switched to Patriot Mobile. Wow, she writes in all caps. What a difference. I had a few issues, porting a couple of our numbers, and they were solved with ease. I can understand the tech perfectly. Thank you so much for promoting them to us. Again, that's from Karen, not that kind of Karen. And that's what, when I say U.S.-based customer service team, let me define what that means. It means you can understand them. And man, you cannot take that for granted these days. If you customer service ain't what it used to be, I think a lot of it is we can't even understand what the customer service people are saying most of the time. All right, so just one of the benefits of making the switch to Patriot Mobile. The biggest benefit is you're going to get all the same stuff from the big boys that you love without giving directly your money to them to help them destroy the country. Instead, you're going to give it to a company that's trying to preserve the same values that you're fighting for as well. And as you heard from Karen, she vouches for, they have an outstanding customer service team. So you can switch your number, keep your number, upgrade your phone, keep your phone. They'll customize it for you and your family the best they know how when you go to patriotmobile.com/Steve. And if you use the offer code Steve, you'll get a free month of service, to get you started at patriotmobile.com/Steve with the offer code Steve. All right, let's get to it. It is time for buy, sell, or hold. Aaron has the submissions. Todd, you and I, by the way, have they improved since you asked me to start retweeting your solicitation?
No, they've actually gotten worse. Thank you.
Yes.
Why did you expect that to go any different?
That's like that Stephen Colbert thing I did. I go, yeah, CNN, they just do this news straight, don't they?
And the crowd begins to laugh. Yes.
They've gotten more voluminous in number, which is good.
Okay.
So my serious analysis, I don't know why you expected to lay that rake, hand me a rake.
I guess I thought there was like wisdom in a multitude of counsel or something, but I guess not.
I do think they've gotten, I think they've gotten better.
All right, well, Aaron has the submissions. You and I have yet to see them. We are going to decide, are we buying them? And we'll explain why. Are we selling them? And we'll explain why. And then if we decide to hold, that is outing ourselves as emasculated, girly men and men of weak character, and therefore there must be a penalty. And for the first time this week, we actually received a suggestion for what the penalty should be, and I'm gonna implement said suggestion. All right.
This isn't going anywhere good.
It's not. No, it won't. It won't. If you use the hold for any reason, you have to find out what is worse. Ants in your pants or Lindsey Graham in your pants?
Well, that actually gave me an out. Normally, I don't have an out. I mean, ants in your pants is that right?
Fire ants?
Yeah, I'm in.
All right, let's get going, Aaron.
All right, we'll begin with Brian Snyder, who says the church needs to consolidate into many fewer denominations. The state of the church today is a reflection of too many choices, which match feelings and not truth.
Bye. This is obvious. One in the creed.
You won't like my answer, but I'm going to sell, because I think that the submission deals with the symptom and not the disease. I mean, the disease is a lack of biblically sound teaching and discipleship. And so you're seeing the increasing splintering because of that. On one end, people looking for it. And then on the other end, the absence of that makes people consumers in church instead of disciples. And they will hop around for reasons that have nothing to do with the abandonment of sound doctrine or courage of conviction, but they're just shopping for a better product. And so I think if you want what I'm assuming the submitter is desiring in his submission, I think you have to deal with the lack of sound doctrine and biblical teaching first. I think this is the symptom of the lack of that, is why I would sell.
But I think you get bad teaching because you keep being able to go to a place where it's a lot. There's not one denomination, not one, that has not suffered because of fracturing. That is not a new thing. That's been going on since the very beginning. From now we got evangelicals for Harris. We've got Pope Francis over here with Pacho. Every single one of them is compromised because we think we can continue to get away with this as a church. It's impossible.
I agree with that. But I think ultimately the only path to any form of unity is through sound teaching and preaching.
And I don't think you can get sound preaching and teaching consistently without unity, which is why people keep fracturing. Who's holding it accountable? Who's defining what sound preaching and teaching is?
Agreed, which is why I think we can't get unity, because we keep fracturing because we're not using the Bible to do that. So we're just arguing these. I'm on one end of 2 + 2 is 4, and I'm on one of the twos, and you're at the other two. Well, we're coming to the same conclusion. We're just at different components in the equation.
Like my pastor, I'm not sure if I would go as far as he does, but he actually thinks that splitting is actually a good thing in the sense that usually it's done for refinement of doctrinal areas, refinement of doctrine. I think that kind of gets to the crux of the circular, not the circular, but the drain circling, I guess, argument that you're witnessing here, where it's the chicken or the egg type of thing, which is usually what it comes down to when these types of conversations come up. Bill Williams says Tim Walz is a total and intentional distraction to take the hits away from Kamalier. That's pretty good, Kamalier. He's the most target-rich environment and absolute catnip for the right.
So,
you go ahead first.
I mean, I guess. I mean, I'm willing to allow for a dark rabbit hole. And sure, the only reason the president who's so bad is picking their VP is because they're even worse. And the public is so lost on this that they won't, and the press is so docile, it'll all somehow work. Okay. I get that's where we live now. But again, they believe these dark things. It's not merely a distraction, this choice of vice president of the United States. They want somebody that they fully believe will go full speed ahead on saying and doing everything and anything, because we are now. It's the emperor. I am the Senate now. I just think there's still a level of comfort that comes out of tweets on this that they don't really plan on ultimately just putting their boot on their throat as hard as they can, and it's coming very soon.
I hesitated to answer firstly because Bill was the presenter.
Bill, yep.
Okay. Because Bill, you brought something up. Actually, I asked myself yesterday, am I spending too much time on Tim Walz when he's not the main event? So I'm open to the possibility that I came to the conclusion for now I'm not, and here's why, thinking through it. You can agree or disagree, that they're putting forth a charm offensive right now, exactly what I told you a month and a half ago when it was clear that Biden was not going to be, to me anyway, was not going to survive that debate. And that whomever was picked next, you'd get the most obnoxious PR campaign you have seen that would make Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce from last year blush. By the way, we're not even into the pinnacle of this yet. All right, we're just at the foreplay stage. Next week, man, this goes full Caligula orgy next week with their convention.
They chose Jeffrey Marsh. They chose him.
Yes. I mean, this is the foreplay stage. We're just making out, man. Okay. We're just heavy petting. I mean, you're going to see stuff consummated in Chicago next week. All right. I mean, it's going to be the marriage supper of the serpent is what you're going to see next week. And then after that is when they're going to really dial up the publicity to try and build like an insurmountable lead so that they know eventually they've got to put her on a stage. They know this. They know that. And they will. They eventually will. All right. But the goal is to build her numbers up so high, or the perception of them is a better way of putting it. The perception of them is so high that anything short of, her basically just having a complete and systemic meltdown. Again, this is what they're thinking. They probably have fortified the election enough that they can withstand that. That's the game plan. May not be able to execute it. Trump may be able to thwart it, but that's what they're going to try and do. Okay. So this isn't the peak of this. This is the end of the beginning, not the beginning of the end. Okay. I mean, this is just phase one is what we're getting. And so to me, Tim Walz is the primary piece of evidence, Exhibit A, that it's all BS. This is the first decision she's on the record making that no one can deny. Was she borders are? Did the media just call her that? How influential was she in the administration? They kept her hidden all this time. Well, is blah, 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 blah. Well, now the new thing, Axios is running stories today. Well, she really has disagreements with Biden, and we should have tougher border security. That's just, and no tax on tip. That's just all BS. Tim Walz is the proof in the pudding, right? A tree by its fruit. What's the first definable decision she's made as a de facto president? What is it? Him. And so presenting that evidence. Now, at some point, if the accused on the stand is weaving a narrative that I can see a jury is starting to believe, I do have to go after that. Okay. But I don't do that until the jury fully knows that I found their fingerprints are on this murder weapon. You see what I'm trying to say? Walz is the fingerprints on the weapon. He's Exhibit A. It's forensic evidence. That everything else, the Wizard of Oz act you're getting over here is all BS. This is the actual thing in which you'll catch the conscience of the queen, right here. First decision she ever made as a de facto president was to put this nut job with Denny Hastert vibes on her ticket, when she could have chose a Jew who served in the Israeli Defense Force and locked up the state of Pennsylvania. She could have chose a war hero from a general. Isn't Kelly a general or a colonel? I can't remember what he is. The senator from Arizona?
I don't think.
Okay.
But lieutenant colonel.
All right. She could have chose a military hero and locked up the state of Arizona. No, she went to a state she was going to win no matter what. Yeah. And basically chose and when I say Denny Hastert vibes, by the way, what was Denny Hastert before he got into politics? What was he?
Ball coach?
Yep. He was a ball coach, a wrestling coach. Yep. Youth coach.
This is crucial.
She picked him on a state she was already going to win because he represents the agenda and puts the kindly neighborly face on it like Todd was talking about last week, just like Denny Hastert did.
And they were worried Vance was going to do, which is why they instantly made him be weird. And now they want the guy that looks like your grandpa, even though the guy is 60. He looks like he's way older than that. And they want him, grandpa, coming out to say, yeah, Jeffrey Marsh is the normal we're searching for. That's exactly what is going on here.
Now, though, Bill, I do think you ask a good question because I asked it of myself yesterday. And I do think there comes a point in time that we'll have to zero in on her. But for now, we need to counter the narrative that is being sold the American people. And until we can get her into unscripted situations, the one unscripted situation she got herself into is she had to name a running mate. That's the first de facto presidential decision she's made. And she chose this whack job. So I think for now, we have to hang her with it. I do think if we're still talking about Tim Walz at this level on October 13th, we're off message, okay? But for now, he is the centerpiece evidence of whom and the people around her, whom they all really are.
If you want to run a counter, and it should happen quickly, to evangelicals for Harris Walz, should be running all of the stuff like what they really stand for: open borders, transgenderism, baby furnaces. That's what evangelicals for Harris Walz really is.
Next, we go to Matthias Nilsson, who says Trump would do far better to hit local news stations in battleground states for interviews than doing the online campaign he's currently running.
I'm going to sell because he should just be doing both. He's not working at the pace he was before. And there's always an excuse when I bring this stuff up. There's no excuse for a billion. Well, billionaire getting outspent by 700% on digital. Well, he spent so much on legal fees. Okay, well, just swapped out his plane. He's got some cash. Okay. Well, he can't. Well, he's done 8 rallies in the last month and a half. In the same juncture in 2016, he had done 22. Well, they can't nail down the security because he's being shot at. Okay, fine. All right. What then? Why can't he be all over? You don't think these local news stations, desperate for ratings and relevance, wouldn't have Trump on every single one of them in every one of these battleground states? I guess they would. Do you know what Donald Trump did all day long before he did the 2-hour call late at night with Elon Musk? No. And nobody really does. He's getting outworked. He needs to work harder. I understand, man. He's 78 years old. I get that. That's one of the reasons why I wasn't in favor in the primary of running people this old. I get that. But it's go time now, man. Go time. People's futures are on the line. Your future's on the line. Maybe your kid's inheritance is on the line. Your country's on the line. Let's go. All right. Don't even have to leave Mar-a-Lago, man. You can just do sat-uplink hookups all day long. These interviews with all these stations all over the country and these battleground states. Could be doing all of those right now. And over and over and over again. Do you guys, I remember, I'm old enough to remember before I checked in the morning on the Cruz campaign, and I'm up pretty early. I still was doing a full-time show back then. Before I checked in with the campaign, Trump had already called into Morning Joe for an hour on MSNBC. Before we even got our own messaging team together and today's talking points out, he was already setting the agenda. Where's that work ethic at? It's not there. It needs to get there. Okay? And I'm all for JD being out there. He's great. I can't think of a time he's been off message. But ultimately, people are going to vote for him and not JD Vance or not. So put in the work. All right? Stop playing golf and do sat-up links. Because if you lose, you have all the time to play the golf you want, brother. The rest of us won't. We'll be hoping Pyongyang doesn't launch at Seoul and Beijing doesn't launch at Taipei, but you'll get to play all the golf you want. Todd, you want to go in on this?
You nailed it. Get serious.
Do the work. Hour 2 is next. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV radio podcast with Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. I'm Steve Deace. Let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. You can email us, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Getter, Instagram, and TikTok. And then you can also, if you listen to the podcast version, if you don't mind, leave us a 5-star review if you like the show. Thanks to all of you who have. You can also hit subscribe, or if you're tuned in via iTunes, hit follow, and that'll make sure that every time we do a new episode, it will show up in your feed every single time. And thanks to all of you that have done that for us too. Thanks to our friends at Constitution Wealth for sponsoring this part of the show. Don't let your retirement dollars become a weapon against everything that you hold dear. Constitution Wealth can be your financial fortress, helping you defend your values with every single dollar. That's why so many of you guys have already reached out to Constitution Wealth, the Patriot's choice in wealth management. Now, here's how they can empower you to take a stand. They can help you secure your family's future with a rock-solid investment plan that reduces the grip that ESG and DEI and other woke demonic schemes have on your portfolio before they erode the foundations of this great nation. Minimize your portfolio with support of the various, valueless like pornography, abortion, and drugs and alcohol, the things that they use to destabilize the country. They can minimize your investments there. You can also, by the way, this is underrated, but potent. Start voting your shareholder votes, otherwise known as your proxy votes, for conservative action at the top of these woke companies. Most people don't exercise their votes because they're in mutual funds and ETFs and that means that they vote their shares or they don't have the time. All right. You need to make the time. We all do. So if this is how they can help you to divest from those that are mocking your values and fight the culture war with maybe your most potent weapon, your money. All right, so here's the call to action. Take action now with our friends at Constitution Wealth. You can visit constitutionwealth.com/blaze. Sign up for a free consultation today. That's constitutionwealth.com/blaze. That's constitutionwealth.com/blaze. Bottom of the hour, the prophet of woe and lamentation, Daniel Horowitz, is going to join us. He's got a really insightful piece up today at the Blaze we will discuss. But until then, more buy, sell, or hold.
We will continue with Uncontexted 2, Electric Boogaloo, who says both Uncontexted Deace 2, Electric Boogaloo, and Dacian memes for unenlarged spleens will be in a UK prison by the end of the year.
Gosh. I will buy. They will at least be threatened with extradition. Yes, buy.
Sure. Yes.
Next, we go to G. Harmon, who says Steve will be invited to speak at CPAC before Kamala accepts an invitation to talk with Elon on X.
Yeah.
Sell.
Bye.
Sell.
Yeah.
You think Kamala would be on X first?
Yeah. That's not really a commentary on her so much as it is.
So
CPAC.
1% to 0%, is that basically your analysis?
Yep.
Okay, then I could buy. I'll buy. You bet.
Next, we go to Jeff Burkhart, who says Elon is the most consequential red pill of all time. If I could speak English for 3 seconds. Elon is the most consequential red pill of all time.
Now,
So.
I'm going to do Todd proud with my answer. I'm going to sell. Okay? Because if the answer is all time, and this is way before the term red pill was even coined, but the idea of what red pilling means and what it represents before the phrase was even articulated. Guys, Constantine would be the most consequential red pill of all time. Okay? That changed literally created Western civilization. All right? So
Wow.
I think this is highly impactful. Okay? Don't get me wrong. But I think of all time is a little overrated.
Expect some emails that he's the one who got started a heretical church that was finally only healed.
Here's the thing. Even if that's true, it doesn't change the cultural impact one way or the other. Even if that were to be true,
Just expect the emails.
which furthers my premise, frankly, that even if it's true and you think he was a false convert, all right, it still altered the entire course of human history. That's just not even debatable. Okay, I do think it's the most consequential red pill of this time. I do. But of all time, I'll sell.
That was awesome. I'm just reliably told that the true Christian church started like 100 years ago in your mom's basement. So
It's not true. It started in Wittenberg in 1501.
Yep.
Yes.
Next.
Or 1517, I'm sorry.
1517. Yeah. Bobby Dodge says... Okay,
There were no Christians before then.
You think you're being
From
sarcastic.
the apostles until 1517, there were no
Seeing
Christians.
some of the replies on some of the things that Todd pokes the bear over, it devolves. The conversation devolves to that. It really does.
it does.
It does. I even before Todd came on this show, I used to question this. So there were no Christians from the apostles to 1517?
Correct.
So Augustine's not a
Hell is
Christian.
full.
Aquinas isn't a Christian. There were no Christians.
The amazing thing.
Even so, the first generation, you want to go into like Irenaeus? Okay, so fine. Justin Martyr? All right. So basically from like 150 AD to 1517, there weren't any Christians. There weren't any. It's just a preposterous statement. Okay.
Yes, but you know what's really funny about it? It gets worse. A lot of the people who think this are also the same people who now are saying we're sellouts for voting for Trump. And guess who they supported? And
The Catholic Ron DeSantis.
the Catholic Ron DeSantis.
I know. It's the everybody's a grifter and a whore and a sellout for supporting Trump, except for Ron DeSantis himself. That's just, guys, there are reasons we lose that go way beyond any of the institutional advantages the other side has. And the other side claimed those institutional advantages because of the reasons we lose. Those were our institutions. They didn't create any of them. We created them all. They all came from our worldview. They were all inspired by our worldview. We created them all. And they took them from us. How? Well, a large reason why are conversations like the ones we are having right now.
Yep.
Next up, we go to Bobby Dodge, who says we should get rid of voter registration and just use real ID. You have to prove citizenship to get one.
Isn't
that the federal law that they keep pushing back its implementation to fly?
Yeah, that's When I had to get my driver's license renewed last month for my birthday, and that's what I had to get, was that new one. Yeah. So
anything is more grown up than the nonsense we peddle now, so I'm just buying.
Okay, I'll buy. Yeah.
All right, moving on, we go to Woke-ianity, who says Republicans should not place an emphasis on Tim Walz's stolen valor because Democrats already affirm that men can become women, which is a higher and more depraved form of stolen valor. It's a waste of time.
So first of all, let me say this. I think your name
with the two flags
is extremely clever. Okay? You sense a but coming on?
Yes, and there should be.
So I wanted to make sure I complimented you before I went, bless your heart, okay? Because I love Woke-ianity. That's brilliant, okay? But we're not trying to win Democrat votes, guys. We're not trying to win any of those. We don't actually have to win a single one of them. We don't. We don't have to win any of them. We don't. Do the math. We don't have to win a single Democratic vote. Don't have to win one. We have to turn out our base at the rate they turn out theirs. And then we have to win independents. We don't have to win a single Democratic vote. We're not messaging to Democrats. And frankly, this is the political analysis version of, I can't preach the full counsel of God because it'll stop unbelievers from coming to the church. The church is not for unbelievers. It's for believers. Now, we would love for unbelievers to come and become believers, but it is primarily first and foremost for believers. It's not for unbelievers. Okay, we have mission trips, and there's people with the office of evangelists that are called to reach unbelievers, okay? But the church primarily is for believers, not for unbelievers. And there shouldn't ever be a single message or sermon ever crafted under the premise of what will drive away unbelievers. Ever. Never. Not one time. Not a single time. Should never happen in the entire history of the church. Never once. And that's what most of the messages that are crafted in the American church today start from that premise, actually. Now, do they do it because they've just taken Arminian theology and soteriology to Pelagian levels? I think that's frankly giving people too much credit. Are they doing it because this is actually how we'll draw a large crowd and build a megapolis to ourselves? That's mostly true. Not exclusively, but mostly true. Similarly, you don't craft messages based on what people that are never going to vote for you think about you, which is actually what Trump is doing right now on abortion, by the way. I'm going to keep hammering it. I'm going to drill this thing home. All right? Drill it home. Because I'll be damned if I sit here again on another election night on the Blaze, watching Jason Whitlock and Michael Malice nearly slit each other's throats and looking at Glenn Beck wanting to slit mine, okay, because we blew it again. I'm not doing that show again, if I have any say. So I'm going to keep hammering this. You worry about what people who might vote for you or could vote for you or should vote for you, what they think. You don't ever worry about what people who don't vote for you think. That's what we're doing on abortion. We're paranoid about what people who are never going to vote for us anyway think. And we're leaving behind people who might and should and could. So.
Correct.
Next we go.
Great name, though.
Yes.
Let's go back and highlight the positives here. Love the name.
Liberty Labrat says the reason our kids are so depressed and full of anxiety is because the devil speaks to them boldly and with complete certainty, but parents and church leaders no longer do.
I'll buy and won't add a word to that. Not a syllable. Bye.
Yep.
Next, Daniel Garrett in the future. When a Boston Red Sox player shouts a phrase at a fan that takes the Lord's name in vain, Major League Baseball will definitely issue an apology statement, definitely suspend the player, and most definitely donate the suspended player's salary to a major Christian charity.
Brilliant take. Yes. I'll buy. And to discern whom it is that truly lords over you, simply find out whom it is you're not permitted to offend. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, buy.
Slutty Plastic has this. I don't understand.
Who even... Who even thought? I'm going with that. And then how'd they get into this audience? All right.
I don't know.
We're not the Young Turks. You guys know that, right? Okay.
Slutty Plastic says the normies won't wake up until they are physically forced out of their comfortability. Their house is taken. Government arrests them for whatever. They're sent to camps, etc.
I fear this is true.
And then he comes with like this really profound take.
This is.
I'll buy the premise. I think the application goes too far. Okay, I do think that there are. Your premise though is sound, so I won't argue with it. That people. This is what I was trying to allude to again, because I'm going to keep drilling this home. Okay, I'm going to keep drilling this home. The level of desperation these not MAGA but non-communist suburban Christian moms who don't like Trump but hate abortion. $5 for a loaf of bread. I live in these neighborhoods. These are my neighbors. Let me tell you how this conversation goes. Husband comes home from work. They get updated on what happened during the day. Went shopping. You won't believe bread's $5 a loaf. You're kidding me. That's disgusting. I can't believe it. And they go right into whatever else they were going to talk about the rest of the day. It's a talking point. It sucks. It's a complaint. They don't like it, but they're not feeling it. So you have to give them something that they feel, that they know that will make them get off the couch and get involved. All right? So I think your application goes too far, but I think your premise is sound, so I'll buy it.
The philosophers, Christian and otherwise, understood this about bread and circuses from the very beginning. And that's when bread and circuses still had a very limited reach. Now your entire life can basically be bread and circus, which is why to avoid this point and to get people to really wake up, right now, if I were king for the day, I would cancel the upcoming football season, college and pro. I'd wake you up real fast.
Next, we go to Peaceful Separation, who has the top 5 words the Steve Deace Show can't live without. Number 5, accoutrements.
That's good. I have been saying that too much the last couple of years. You're right about that.
Number 4, hermeneutic.
That's actually where I think we need to say more often. Okay, but okay.
Number 3, demonic.
Yes, for sure. We're saying it too much, but not because it's a crutch. It's because it's unfortunately too obvious.
Number 2, fair. Like that's fair. Fair.
Oh, do I say that a lot?
You do, yeah.
No, okay. All right. I wasn't self-aware about that. Thanks for the rebuke. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's fair. Number 1 is comfortable.
Touchdown. As long as that's number 1, I don't care what was on the other ones.
All right, pretty good list. I won't complain, and I even got a check. I even got a rebuke out of it. So that's good preaching right there. Well done. Yes, I'm convicted now. That's fair.
Brandon Hankins says Trump's.
See that, Stacey. That's
I still got the last word
to the last.
I still got the last
Thanks
word.
for rebuking me.
Yeah.
That's. Yes.
Brandon Hankins says Trump's spaces with Elon will have little to no impact because only the very online crowd paid attention to it.
I'm going to sell, and I think we have to. I don't think we're there yet, but we are in the transition process of what happens in the metaverse is going to matter more than what happens on the ground. Just as 60 years ago, there was a transition from what happened on television mattered more than what happened on the ground. Now, does that mean, did I say that television made what happened on the ground completely irrelevant? Is that what I said? That's not what I said. The ratio, though, inverted itself, okay? That you could have whatever you want on the ground, but if you're not happening on television, you could not overcome that, right? The last presidential election we had with no presidential debates was Nixon versus McGovern. Not coincidentally, Nixon didn't want to go through what he went through with Kennedy again, where he's up against the younger candidate and he looks, like he's got 5 o'clock shadow and he's aging. Not coincidentally, Nixon won in a rout. Okay. But ever since at the dawn of the television age, the candidate who was more liked on TV has won every single election, every single one. Now, what makes them more likable are different things, right? When elections are about issues, Republicans win. When elections are about personalities, Democrats win. Iron law of American politics. Whoever messages the future wins every single election. That plays the future, hope, optimism, that plays well on TV. That's an iron law of American politics, okay? What's about to happen, and we're in the process of this now. Will we be there fully in 2028? I don't know the answer to that, okay? But we are in the process of we are soon going to say, depending on how much longer we have as a nation, that what happens online matters more than what happens on the ground. So I'm going to sell here. If anything, that gave Trump a chance to expand his base. If anything, young Gen Z voters got their most exposure, unadulterated, without a filter, because they're not watching his rallies on cable news. And they're being fed a narrative one way or the other from their boomer parents who think he's literally God's anointed, and from their college professors who think that he's, literally Hitler, okay? They've tuned all that out one way or the other. That was the most unfettered exposure to Donald Trump those kinds of voters have ever received. And the idea that will not be impactful, I don't agree with that whatsoever also.
Yeah, I'm with you. But I'm kind of like this with the assassination attempt, oddly, that I'm optimistic about doors being opened and possibilities for people having ears to hear that they didn't have before. Mm-hmm. But then every day that you get away from that, I worry that we will just not take advantage of it.
This also, but this, you're helping me with my point, because if that's the case, then how we message must change.
Yes.
Okay. And what that means is we have to repeat themes over and over and over and over again. Like you said something to me a few days ago that was a good rebuke for me, because I got frustrated with a guy who claimed I was stealing his take. And I went and I found that I got so pissed at this guy. I went and searched my own Twitter account, and I found the first time I gave this take was in October of 2022, and I sent him the link. And I think it was you, wasn't it, who said to me, you realize that you have so many followers and people don't have time to follow like everything you've said and done. You're going to drive yourself crazy if you do stuff like that. Okay. I mean, people are coming in and out all the time. You see what I'm saying? Okay. And so because of that, we're going to have to message differently now too. We're going to have to, it's going to require much more stick-to-itiveness. You're going to have to repeat themes over and over again, like build a wall, for example, okay? Lock her up, for just a couple of recent examples on the right, okay? Because, again, a lot of this is going to be transient and drive-by, and it's going to require more quick draw communication than it is thesis positing and stating. Because of that, You're going to have to change the way you message.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, before we move on, a word from our friends over at Deace for Hillsdale. You can still go see that inspiring, speaking of good stuff online, you can still go see that inspiring portrayal of Thomas Jefferson on their website as he reflects on the meaning of his Declaration of Independence that he wrote with a little help from Ben Franklin and John Adams and his friends. It's from a letter he wrote later in his life. It's fantastic. You can also go there and get a free commemorative copy of the Declaration of Independence as well when you go to daceforhillsdale.com. This is perfect. If you are homeschooling your kids, this is a great addendum to your homeschool curriculum. If you're sending them to else school, this is a great antidote, particularly if it's the government variety, for what they're probably going to be taught there. All right, Dace for Hillsdale, F-O-R, daceforhillsdale.com is where you want to go to see this and get the free copy of the Declaration at daceforhillsdale.com.
I'm going to call a little bit of an audible here, okay? So over the last 24 hours, there's been a big subject in the sports bro world about fall weddings. This morning, Ben Stevens, I'm not sure who that is, Sports Grid Radio, he posted that The Knot, which is a weddings website, has to do with weddings, reports that Saturday, October 12th is one of the most popular wedding dates of 2024. And, of course, October 12th, you've got Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, LSU, Penn State, USC. So a lot of people have been talking about fall weddings. This guy, he's a rando. He's got fewer than 2,000 followers, named Fred, on Twitter. Said, I cannot stand the no weddings during football season crowd anymore. Grow up, you're 26. Fred says, I love college football. I'm listening to Max season previews in June. I'll park my ass on the couch and watch a full slate if I don't have anything big going on. You can suck it up and check the score and or watch on your phone after the ceremony. It's not hard. This guy is getting absolutely eviscerated for this take. Absolutely eviscerated.
Yep. I feel you.
Saying things like stay single. Hey, man, if you like football more than awkwardly drinking beers you don't know, hope this helps. He's just getting killed for this. Buy, sell, or hold. The reaction to this rando with fewer than 2,000 followers on Twitter is Exhibit A for Todd's take that the college football season should be canceled.
Bye.
I'll buy in that. I mean, it was a funny online meme debate for several years. Okay. Our oldest daughter, Anastasia, had always wanted a fall wedding. Okay. And God bless her and Stephen actually scheduled it. Michigan had a bye week. Okay. They didn't have to do that. I appreciated it. But they know if they had scheduled it Michigan, Ohio State Saturday, I just would have recorded the game, watched it later, and gone to the wedding. It's not the technology that exists today should make these kinds of debates irrelevant. Just turn your phone off. You shouldn't have your phone on in a wedding anyway, right? So if your buddies are texting you or whatever, just turn it off. I coached Noah in youth football for several years when he was growing up, and the games were often at 10, 11, and noon. Do we play college football games during those times?
Yeah.
Were there Michigan games during those times?
Yeah.
Okay. Just turn your phone off. Do your thing as a dad, as a friend. Enjoy yourself.
They can't, Steve. They can't.
Here's how you know this is really idolatry, is today's technology makes it possible that you can do all these things if you want at the same time and enjoy them all in real time. Just turn your phone off, avoid all the news, record the game, watching it. You can even get home now. In VCRs, you had to wait till the game was over. I remember working the Iowa State football beat. They'd play at the same time as Michigan. I'd have to wait till the Michigan game was over. Now with DVR, I can join it. I can get home early from my job and pick it up live in real time at the start of the game while the game is still finishing up. Technology should make all of these debates irrelevant.
It can't. It's impossible.
But the fact that instead of taking advantage of that technology that makes all this stuff convenient, so you can do all this stuff now with no excuses, and you've swerved even more into selfishness, just is the very essence of idolatry, frankly.
Guys, look at me. I'm the captain now. You're not supposed... technology or not, you're not supposed to care about it this much. Full stop. You're not. It's just a kid's game. For the love of God. I am so over the target on this thing. You cannot have the things that you claim you want to have in terms of being an American and or a Christian and be a part of this at this level. It can't work. It's physics, for God's sakes. It's not just an opinion. And nothing can save you from it. No tech, no nothing. Are we going to slay the idols, smash the idols, or not? That means all of them.
All right. Next, we will go to At the Fence. Top 5 80s back-to-school supplies. Number 5,
Nice.
a metal lunchbox
Oh, yeah.
featuring your favorite TV show or movie.
Word.
Number
Bye.
4, the Bic 4-color
Oh,
pen.
yes. Remember that? Yeah, heck yeah. Now I'm excited. Bye, yes.
Number 3, a Peachy folder.
I don't know what that is.
I'm not sure I remember that is either.
Number 2, scratch and sniff stickers.
Oh, yeah. Love those.
Number
Yep.
1, Trapper Keeper.
Is the bomb. Remember the fight over the cool Trapper Keeper every year? We were a great country once.
School supplies.
Now everything's communist and uniform and everybody has to have the exact same thing so that nobody argues. It's just, it's communist autocracy now.
It's strange to think about that being a kid and lamenting summer being over.
Yep.
But somehow, even for school supply shopping, somehow managed to be the bridge.
Yes.
I don't know how, but it did.
That was a legit conversation. That was a legit competition. I mean, ask yourself this question. Were we a better country when you could get your ass beat because you brought in the most effeminate Trapper Keeper and made a tragic cosmic mistake? Or no more Trapper Keepers, everybody has the exact same thing, and we have a zero tolerance policy for bullying. When we were a better country, Todd,
I
you
think
go.
it's obvious.
It's pretty obvious.
I think it's
pretty obvious. Yeah. Again, there needs to be some law of the jungle. Needs to be some self-enforcing. Somebody at least one kid paid a hefty price at every school for thinking he was going to have the bedazzled trapper keeper, and it put him on the straight and narrow. And he's married now with a wife. He's got 17 kids, probably preaching at a church somewhere. And he looks back on that. Thank you guys for beating my ass when I was 7 and I came with that bedazzled trapper keeper. I mean, it set me straight. I needed it. Preach. Don't do that anymore. We don't do that anymore. Nope.
All right, next, Uncomfortably Dumb has this. Churches in the mold of Christ Church in Moscow, Idaho, and Refuge Church in Ogden, Utah, that's Brian Sauvé's church, will be the most attended Generation Alpha churches. That would be people like Anna's and my kids. Hard times make hard men, and they will seek hard truths.
I do think there's some truth in this. I don't think it's complete. I think you're going to see two totally divergent camps swell here. I think the first camp, the Reform camp that is mentioned here, people are going to look for, people want to recover intellectual tradition in Protestantism again in the younger generations. They're tired of vapid talking points and this is, well, because the Bible says so. Well, why does it say that? Explain that to me. Okay. So that, but I think you're going to also see charismatic churches, people flock there too. The congregation's more diverse. People are going to feel like the Spirit is alive there. And I think both of those are going to be the two dominant camps in the next generation of the church in the West, however much of the West is allowed to remain in the next generation. So even though I think it's not complete, I'll still buy it because I think it is a smart take.
I'm going to sell only because I have a twist on it. Didn't they use the word, they're going to swell, expand, or get larger? Something along those lines. I think they are already doing really well. I think this has to do with what Pope Benedict said about a healthy church is going to be in the very near future is going to be one that's actually getting smaller because people are just solid teaching is going to lead people to reject it. So I actually don't think they're going to get that much bigger. If they're doing the job, they might get a little smaller, but I think they're just going to be the ones that are holding the line and are being constants.
And maybe they're smaller in number, and therefore they swell because people that want orthodoxy tend to go there, even though they're smaller in number, but their individual numbers rise. I think you're seeing a pruning now. I think COVID was the very first step of a divine pruning of the church. And everybody kind of knows where everybody's at now and what lessons were and were not learned and whether people are still willing to learn any lessons at all. So Daniel Horowitz will be here for the Woe and Lamentation next. Stay tuned. So healthcare costs continue to spiral out of control. Obviously, government isn't the answer. It's probably the problem. So then what is the answer? Lassie Health is here to help you shake things up. That's Lassie, L-A-A-S-Y, L-A-A-S-Y, Lassie Health. Now, it's not health insurance, but it's access to the health care that you want without all the red tape, the restrictions, and the inflated costs. And their coverage plans start as low as $30 a month. You'll get transparent pricing, comprehensive coverage tailored to your needs, and access to healthcare services without breaking the bank. And there's no annual or lifetime caps on services. You'll even get to start a plan at any single time. I mentioned the lowest cost plan they have is $30 a month. Here's what you get for that. Over 400 prescription meds for free unlimited virtual mental health counseling, free 24/7 virtual urgent care, lab tests up to 60% off, imaging tests up to 75% off, procedures and surgeries over 50% off. And again, that's the least expensive option that they have. So as you can see, Lassie Health is a game changer. So check out affordable plans that put you in control of your health care at healthylink.com/Steve. For a limited time, you get your first month for free. That's up to $100 off of eligible plans. So get healthy, be healthy, and stay healthy without breaking the bank at healthylink.com/Steve. Let's welcome in the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation, Daniel Horowitz. You have a great piece up today I want us to discuss, Daniel, but really quick, I want to have you and I give some helmet stickers to a guy on Twitter by the name of Right Wing Dad. Because I think he came up with some just so simple, I can't believe we didn't think of it, but fantastic messaging on Amendment 4 in Florida, the amendment in Missouri. And his point is, if you're in these red states, all right, you just need to get the boomer Fox News Republican voter to know that these are Democrat bills, and they'll just vote against them instinctively, reflexively on that. So just say, yeah, that's the Democrats' abortion amendment. Vote against it. That's all they need. All right? And that just keep it just that simple. They'll just reflexively vote against anything in these red states where we have the numbers. Missouri is the most churched state in the union. Non-LDS, I should say. Non-LDS churched state in the union is Missouri. Florida just now has a 1 million plus voter registration advantage. All right, you just in these really red states, just brand these things as Democrat bills. This is the Democrats' no restrictions abortion bill. Just keep tying the Democrats to it. You'll get your boomer grandparents and parents who just watch Fox News and don't care about any of this stuff. You'll get them out to vote against it just by branding it as the Democrat stuff. I thought that was freaking brilliant, man. Can't believe we didn't think of it.
Steve, we're talking about Florida, where Republicans now have a 1 million person registration edge, and all Republicans need to win this is 40% plus one. Look, you want to say, and the pendulum has been swinging back and forth, now that Republicans have bungled this, and we could debate why for a number of reasons. Democrats are winning more the totality of the issue, or maybe the early term abortion sort of thing. But the notion that suddenly red states are now to the left of Scandinavian laws is absurd. What is happening is it's reflective of a comatose, and this is what it is, a comatose RNC ground game. We're finding it throughout the primaries. There's nothing doing. This is something you could win within your own sphere of influence. Again, if Trump would get up and say, oh, what is with this crappy language there? I mean, he could work wonders with his plain talk, about the distortions in the language and how it guts parental rights for an abortion up until when it's coming out of the womb. And by the way, Trump would be uniquely suited. Once he's already moderated on the issue, he could get up there and say, look, I'm trying to root out the extremes. I don't like extreme in one direction, but this thing is absurd. It's one thing, early on, but this thing is just out of control. You would easily get that 41%. The fact that we're not is because Republicans are controlled opposition, and there's nothing doing. I just want to add to that. Last night there was another amendment in Wisconsin. Now every kind of like R versus D thing in Wisconsin is razor tight. It's sort of what Florida was 25 years ago, right? Everything is just razor tight there. And there's a Republican legislature, Democrat governor. The Republicans had what was a good ballot initiative to make it that the governor cannot spend federal funds without legislative approval. And, it went down 58-42. It just tells me there's just no men on the field. And this is a really not a good omen for the next few months.
Let's get to your piece, because I think you have, and you mentioned to me this morning, you've been meaning to write about this for about a year, but there's been so many other things to write about, to cover, like what we were just discussing, for example. But essentially the piece that you write today, as I read it, is you are pointing out that what we just saw in the Olympics with the most brazen, globally visible examples of the women's sports debate we're having here in America since Leah Thomas from 3 years ago, that what we're seeing here, this idea that this is a vanguard, okay, that this is a new front opening up, the exact opposite is true. It is not the tip of the spear when it comes to pushing back on feminism and the counterculture and what's been done to traditional values. That this is actually indicative of the fact that a generation's worth of destruction against traditional gender roles and femininity has largely succeeded because they've worked their way so far down into the water table now that even the sports world that has traditionally been insulated from a lot of our external political fights one way or the other is now ground zero for it. This is indicative of how much ground they have actually claimed, not new ground that they are just now taking. That's kind of your position of what you write today?
Yeah, and let me just say why I wrote it. Look, to be clear, obviously it's demonic to have men and female sports. It's a fairness issue. It's also a safety issue. I was together with Representative Barbara Ehart in Idaho, the first, the one at least the first I know of, who had a bill to ban men and female sports. But at the time, we thought that would be our lead ship in the armada to, get a beachhead and roll back this entire thing, that you take some of the most kind of physically absurd manifestations of gender bending ideology, to then fight the whole thing, not use the talking point and make the talking point the whole policy, and to the point where it then becomes a controlled opposition to jujitsu, your very strong momentum that we have on this, but the broader issue as well, to only this. But what we're starting to see, and Bruce Jenner says this all the time on Twitter, this is what the log cabins did in the GOP platform, where it's like you wouldn't, if you came from Mars, you wouldn't even know that we're suffering a crisis where we've groomed an entire generation of children, but more girls actually than boys, to believe that they're the opposite gender, or they don't know what a woman is. Matt Walsh's movie is more profound in the title than I think he thought. What's a woman? Notice we don't have a confusion about what's a man. I think people know what masculinity is. There's less of it going around.
Which is why they're trying to tarnish it with phrases like toxic masculinity, for example.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
But people know, and especially on the right, I think it's a big taboo to have men that act feminine. But femininity is more subtle. It's that part of Genesis 2, God created man, created woman. It's more subtle, and it's literally became a lost art. And my thesis is that rather than making this only about female sports, you look at the GOP platform, it's like you would think there's a logistical issue about female sports. Like, well, no, we have a problem of 28.5% of Gen Z women, and rapidly increasing every year, God knows the next generation, thinks there's something that will lead to them not procreating. Like, we could survive without female sports. Heck, we could survive without male sports, as Todd always points out. People emphasize that a little bit too much. What we can't survive with is an entire generation of people confused about what the heck a man and a woman is. And, this Gallup poll here, and really Pew and the CDC have similar data. And I think there's a bunch of remarkable things I want people who are watching to take a look at this. Before World War II, so you have, since Adam and Eve, pretty much the same thing up until the silent generation, baby boomers, where there was no such thing as transgender. There was no such thing as all these funny things. You had a very insignificant, low, minute baseline of men who identified or acted out privately as so-called gay. And it was that's all you had. And it was a lot more pronounced among men than women, right? And I think there's obvious reasons for that. It's a sexual deviancy. All forms of sexual deviancy are going to be more pronounced with men, so this is no different, and that's how it was. As time went on, you have all these other things that suddenly came out of nowhere, as if God burnt a batch born between 2000 and 2005. Yeah, right. But exponentially accelerating in all of them among women and girls, to the point where now, if you just look at that so-called gay thing, it's gone up because everything is gay, social contagion, but not as much as you would think, actually, right? I mean, since its initial jump, around World War II generation, been pretty stagnant, 1.8, 2.3, 2.3, 2.8, okay, among men who identify as gay, which was always the big enchilada. You now have twice as many females who identify as lesbian among Gen Z as males among gay. That makes no sense. You have, mainly it's driven by this bisexual, which tells you it's a dead giveaway. It's all a matter of there's nothing natural to that. And then even the transgenderism. Here's the thing. Everyone's talking about men in female sports. Well, that's a men cosplaying female issue. Well, actually, I mean, there's more than twice as many females that identify in their mind as men. And you put it all together, Steve, it's no enigma. Transgenderism and all its, annals here are the bastard children of feminism. And what we're doing is this is the natural result of bombing women from the time they're girls with endless masculine energy. You go girl boss sort of thing. It manifests in so many aspects of life that this is what you get. there's just a bunch of confusion. So it's not a matter of men stealing female sports. It's a matter of men being able to steal womanhood as a whole. And the reason is because women themselves are largely confused about what is a woman, to the point where now, again, 28.5%, I want people to understand that are that confused. And it ties commensurately to the increase in depression and mental illness among everyone, but again, much more acutely among young women. That is the broader problem. So here's my punchline. If we're going to take the Bruce Jenner GOP platform, we're out of the pool, but absolutely a Bruce is a Caitlyn, a Caitlyn's a Bruce, and we're going to normalize that behavior even on the right, you're going to perpetuate the broader civilization problem. But Steve, just to sew it up, this is what the GOP does on every issue. I said this point on my show today about the border and terrorism. We have a talking point that they let in 99 people on the terror watch list. Now, the problem with open borders is not just letting in people on a terror watch list. You could fight that and become so indefensible, they'll cede the point. Just like I see them ceding the point on female sports because it's just so indefensible. It's just unworkable. But what's the point if you make the talking point the issue, right, rather than using the talking point to uproot the entire issue?
You end up undergirding their premise, actually, and ensuring it, reinforcing it. Just to put a final point on this, I just did the math. In Joe Biden's lifetime, because I think he's on the tail end of the silent generation, I think. Yep. So in Joe Biden's lifetime, the current president of the United States, just his lifetime, there has been a 6,350% increase in people identifying as LGBTQFU. Just in the current president's lifetime, a 6,350% increase. Incredible. Daniel, great stuff today. Make sure to read his stuff at The Blaze. Good to see you, brother. Thank you.
Take care.
So one thing you've heard Daniel and I rail against for many years on our various platforms and our work together is the abuse of the courts by the left, using the courts to make law, using the courts and judges to make things up, and that we don't necessarily need reform. We need to go back to the Constitution. All right, we've decimated the courts already. Well, now what the left wants to do, because it's not 100% they can get all the rulings they want, even with the courts that they've corrupted, is now they just want to, they want to stack courts, stack judges, put them under ethics and guidance, guidelines that I'm sure won't actually be ethical in any way, shape, or form. This is the new unconstitutional Biden plan. Our friends over at First Liberty want to do something about this. They are America's leading constitutional experts when it comes to protecting religious liberty, and we're asking you to join them and over 500,000 like-minded patriots in this fight against this brazen power grab. They don't want an independent judiciary on the left. Their idea of an independent judiciary is a judiciary independent of the people, independent of the Constitution, independent of the laws of nature and nature's God. When the judiciary upholds those things, that's when the left gets mad. So when they say independent judiciary, they don't mean what we mean. All right, what we mean is we want a third branch to hear our grievances and to represent us. What they mean is they want to make sure that this is the other branch that just rejects our grievances and doesn't care what we think. So if you want to say no to the Biden plan, no to their so-called court reform, this Supreme Court coup, you can get more information and add your name by checking out Supreme Coup, C-O-U-P, supremecoup.com/Steve. Add your name there. supremecoup.com/Steve. Again, that's supremecoup.com/Steve. All right, guys, thoughts on the conversation we just had with Daniel?
Well, he made a really good point about all risky sexual behavior in men. There's those funny memes that are out there about, this is why women live longer than men, and it's usually men doing something colossally stupid when they're boys or even when they're men. That just harkens how demonic what's happened to women is. Because there's truth to that. Women have just defaulted to not doing such risky things until very, very recently with their sexual identity. And I don't think there's, honestly, Occam's razor And where Steve talks about how he never thought he'd be, and as aggressive as he won, he never thought he'd be using the term demonic as much as he did. I think that's the obvious answer to this.
When it comes to men fulfilling their roles in life, especially in the context of a family as leader and protector, that data that we just put up on the screen from Gallup shows you that it is a zero-sum game. You either do your job or else there will be hell to pay, and that is hell right there. That's a generations of men really not doing their job. Really not. Yeah, there's it takes two to tango. Yeah, there's another end of this. But again, the onus, the first responsibility is on the men.
Amen. We're going to stick around, finish buy, sell, or hold for subscribers here on Blaze TV. For the rest of you, we will see you tomorrow, noon to 2 Eastern, right after Glenn Beck, right here on Blaze TV. Until then, Romans 8:28.